continue our livelihood. Lord, continue to bless us and protect us. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Indeed, visions are being manifested in terms of commitments made and being delivered. So thank you so much for that. And as I said, commitments being delivered in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and dealing with all the attendant issues. There are good things happening in Jamaica. This is one such project that represents good things happening in Jamaica. So to give you an overview of the social housing project, and in particular, this signing ceremony today, may I welcome the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and for us here too at the Office of the Prime Minister in pink today, Mrs. Audrey Sewell.
Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Honorable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, colleague Permanent Secretaries Hales and Henry Marshall, Town Clerk, CEO, but you are here also representing the Mayor because he'll speak on his behalf, Mr. Xavier Chavans, City Engineer, colleagues, CTD Watson, who just prayed, colleagues from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, members of the media, good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Just to set the context, why are we here, and why am I here, and why is the Prime Minister here? Well, this project will be part of the HOPE project, Housing, Opportunities, Production, Employment Program. And everybody would have heard about HOPE by now, because we have been going across the island with the Prime Minister to hand out, or to deliver rather, or hand over homes that have been built for beneficiaries. Now, this program that you probably would have already known too, was launched by the Prime Minister in 2018. And it is really to provide housing, affordable housing, for the less fortunate in our society. And it is based on recommendations by members of Parliament. So it's a constituency-based program, and each member of Parliament, they are required to make recommendations to the HOPE Secretariat for houses to be built for beneficiaries. The program has 3 components, and for this morning, we are fitting into one of the components. One, where single units, whether 1, 2, or 3 bedroom houses, depending on the need. When we go out there, when we get the recommendations, we have to go out and do what we call a social inquiry to verify that the need exists. So when we go out, what we see, they come back and they make a report. Say, well, this person is a single person. These are the conditions we are recommending, whether a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house. And it goes through a rigorous procurement and review process up to the process where there's a committee, an overview committee that finally approves the recommendation. And we do have Marsha, representative from your ministry on the committee, and I think from HUREC too. And then the next component has to do with the upgrade of what we call tenement yards, big yards, and where we have multi-families living together in less than desirable conditions. And so we go in and we build again houses to accommodate them. We did one in St. Mary, where we built 3 3-bedroom houses in one yard because they lived communally as a family. And so we did that. So that is the second component of the program. And the third component, and under which Victoria Palm now is going to be done, is the relocation component, where you have a community living, and again, less than desirable conditions. For example, they live on Gully Bank, the housing condition is dilapidated, or they live in places that really should not be accommodated by persons. And so this Minister Mackenzie went to the Prime Minister, he made his case, because as you know, Hope is under the Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and the Minister is the Prime Minister. And an award was made in terms of providing funding for the program, and we won't go into detail of that, CEO, because it is out now for tender. And so we are here this morning to sign a MOU amongst the ministries and the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. So the three ministries represented here are party to this MOU, and each ministry has a particular responsibility. And you will hear more when the CEO speaks, when the PM speaks, and when Minister Mackenzie and Minister Charles speaks. Housing providing the land, right, PS? KSMAC doing the engineering works and the design. Minister Mackenzie's ministry is responsible to provide oversight, and MEGJC will provide the funding and the supervision. So really it's a joint of government approach, and we are very happy to be party to this signing this morning. Before I close, I want to remind you that the program is going very well, and we're looking to enter another phase with it, because when it was launched, the Prime Minister had said one of the key elements is really to make the units affordable. And you would have heard about the launch of the competition, the design competition, the low-income housing design competition. That has been going well. The judges are currently deliberating. They have promised us that they will finalize their report by the 1st of November CTD. So we will finalize the judging. We have some dates, PM, for the judges to debrief you, to present their findings and their recommendations. And within a week after that, we will have the final announcement. So by about the 17th, based on what I sent out, we will be announcing the winners for the various categories for the low-income housing design competition. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary Mrs. Audrey Sewell, for that overview. Very important points being made that, you know, so many times people assume that there is a seamless process in government. And one of the commitments made by Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, is that there must be a seamless process in government. And it's pleasing to see, especially for a project like this, all the government entities and local authorities coming together to ensure that you, the Jamaican people, are served in the very best way. So thank you, PS, for that very good overview. And now let me invite Mr. Robert Hill, the Chief Executive Officer, formerly called the Town Clerk of the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation, now the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, to provide us with some greetings from the corporation and to tell us a little bit more, not too long, but tell us a little bit more about, you know, the role of the KSAMC in this process. Mr. Hill.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Most Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Andrew Holness, ONPC MP, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, CD MP, JP Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, the Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., MP, Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, Mrs. Audrey V. Sewell, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, of course, the Office of the Prime Minister, Permanent Secretaries Marsha Henry Martin, Hales, and of course CTD. Good morning again. I'll notice that you said formerly town clerk. I just want to put on record that the salary does remain the same. So, thank you. I bring greetings on behalf of His Worship the Mayor, Senator and Councillor Delroy Williams, CD, who is unavoidably absent this morning, and also on behalf of the management and staff of the executing agency on this very worthwhile, worthy, and timely project, which will see a transformation of the Victoria Palms housing development, bettering the lives and improving the quality of life for the people and citizens in that division of Denham Town within the constituency of West Kingston. We are indeed happy, proud, and pleased to be part of the execution process, and as usual, the high standards and quality that we're held to under the leadership of His Worship the Mayor, through my own involvement and that of the Chief Engineering Officer, Mr. Xavier Chevans, we hereby commit to the quality standards delivery within cost and budget and in time to ensure that we are compliant with all regulatory requirements of the project itself. Naomi, you did mention about the evidence of seamless coordination, and we're part of that partnership and want to commit that as well, because this in fact is a major commitment of the Most Honourable Prime Minister, and we must of duty follow through and commit ourselves to that. So with those brief remarks, as you have instructed, let me hand back to you, and I bring greetings again from the KSAMC on behalf of His Worship the Mayor, Senator and Councillor Delroy Williams. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hill. You get an A for that very timely intervention and greeting on behalf of the mayor. You know, there are so many times that we drive across sections of Kingston or across Jamaica. One of the things that become an eyesore are that, you know, decaying buildings, you know, especially the housing stock. And it's something really that, as the head of cabinet, the Prime Minister is very, very deeply concerned with. And this project in particular, when you look at the faces of those who have been beneficiaries, coming from a state where they lived in a boarded or zinced piled house to now having a modern concrete structure, it not only speaks to the outward look of the community, but also the sense of pride and hope that our people in Jamaica have from just this very one program. And there are other programs, of course, that the Prime Minister will speak about when he comes up to deal with housing and how we'll get Jamaica moving regarding the commitments made in housing. A member of the cabinet, one of the younger members of the cabinet, the Honourable Colonel Charles Jr. is up next to speak. He's responsible for a super ministry. Listen to it. It's housing, urban renewal, very important, climate change being a component, and of course the environment. A man with a big mission, but certainly he's up to the task. Minister Charles.
Thank you, Naomi. Good morning. Let me first acknowledge our Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, colleague Minister Mackenzie, Permanent Secretaries Sewell, Dr. Hales, Mrs. Henry Martin, Brother Hill, Xavier, CTD, all of our esteemed colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today I head off to Scotland for us to continue, rather, the discussions on the very critical issue around tackling the climate crisis. An integral part of the solution and activities that we will need to advance as a country are around climate-resilient housing and reinvigorating our urban spaces to address the dilapidated situation and to strengthen capacity for our communities. And so I am very pleased to participate in this signing ceremony for the Victoria Palms housing development for Denham Town. It means much more than housing for me. It is a welcomed advancement of our effort in the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change towards our plans to renew Jamaica, an initiative that includes all of the pillars necessary to achieve what our Prime Minister has asked us to focus on, which is building sustainable communities in this beloved nation. Indeed, we are working to redefine our approach to providing shelter solutions to ensure that they are more accessible, affordable, and climate resilient. We are working to reinvigorate our urban centers in order to enhance that balance that is necessary between economic viability and environmental sustainability, to restore the environment, particularly areas that are degraded, and to reduce the impacts of climate change so that all of us in Jamaica can have an improved quality of life. And so it is a primary goal of the administration, a primary goal of the ministry towards the redevelopment of tenements and areas containing substandard buildings. And I'm very pleased also that the 12-unit development will include recreational spaces. A big part of our urban renewal thrust is the integration of parks and playing fields and other open spaces necessary to enhance environmental health and also our own human health. And so improving the built environment is one step. This is one more step towards the successful urban renewal of our space and promoting social cohesion in our country. So I do hope that the development will add the beauty that it will to the space in Denham Town and also increase safety, security, and sustainability. I look forward to its completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Charles. For those in our online audience, you can see that we're making sure that we take very care with our COVID protocols. So our lectern is sanitized after each speaker. Thank you so much once again, Minister Charles. It really is pleasing to hear, again, recommitments. It's just not words, but you can see it in action when you look at some of the results, especially from projects, of a strategy to sustainably build out, our housing stock, to sustainably ensure the long-term viability of some key areas in our Jamaica land we love. And in particular, for me, it's pleasing to hear that there are recreational spaces that are being developed as well when we develop the housing. So many times people say that, boy, it's only a concrete jungle. Not so. I think when you look at especially where this government has gone, they've been very, very deliberate in looking at recreational spaces to ensure that our children in particular have that area to unleash, and it's especially at this time during COVID that they do need recreational spaces. So thank you so much, Minister, for that intervention. And now, Prime Minister, may I say that you made a very good choice in Minister Mackenzie being Local Government and Rural Development Minister. I think he is doing an excellent job, save for one thing, and I think it's every member of the public, whenever they see me, they say, boy, why did Prime Minister do that? Minister Mackenzie is a Man U fan, and he ensures everybody knows it by wearing a matching Man U mask every time. But I won't rib him about the losses recently incurred, especially when it came to Liverpool last week. But never mind, that's 5 for you. And so, And so I hope your cabinet colleagues, Minister, really have not distressed you any further, because that would be salt in the wound. But ladies and gentlemen, Minister Desmond McKenzie, the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, will now address us.
The good thing about it is that with Manchester United, you are safe despite the challenges. And we allow things like that to happen just to show our real potential. Madam Master of Ceremonies, Most Honorable Prime Minister, colleague, Cabinet Minister, Permanent Secretaries, CEO, KSMAC, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am a very proud individual standing here this morning, not so much in my capacity as a Minister of Local Government, but more so as a Member of Parliament for the constituency that this housing program will be built. Prime Minister and colleagues, the name Denham Town is synonymous to Jamaica, especially Kingston, because it is in fact the oldest residential community in Kingston. Many years ago, it was known as Smith Village. And the housing stock, especially in Denham Town, is extremely old. This project, Prime Minister and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, will bring some relief to the sufferings of many persons. Since 1989, a community of Board Villa was relocated on a temporary basis to facilitate the wider development of the housing program in Denham Town. Unfortunately, the elections of 1989 put an end to that project. And since then, generations have been developed in the Board Villa. And so this program is to respond to the long wait. Many persons have died waiting to be relocated. And this is a proud moment. And it is a proud moment because Denham Town, as I said before, is not just a community of history. Where we are going to be building these new units is also significant. I don't know how many of you know that the late Jamaica and West Indies batsman, Collie Smith, was born, raised, lived in Denham Town at the same location where we are going to be putting down these houses. And at least 3 of the persons who will benefit from these units used to live at the same location in Denham Town. The people are committed to ensure that this investment is protected. They are committed to ensure that I can go back to the Prime Minister, because Prime Minister, let me just tell you, the Board Villa, which I took you to, have more than 200 families cramming one small space. And the living conditions there is not nice. So I'm saying to my constituents, let us impress the Prime Minister some more by maintaining the dignity of the project so I can get some more next year. We are putting within the project, Prime Minister, at least 4 units under the Ministry of Local Government Social Housing Program also. That will expand the program. West Kingston, finally, Prime Minister, has been a constituency that has had developments taking place from 1962. And from 1989, we have not seen the kind of developments that should continue in a constituency where almost 90% of the properties is owned by government because they were bought by government to develop. But as I said before, our politics has denied the community of the opportunity of living a decent life in proper housing solution. I want to extend, Prime Minister, on behalf of the constituency, my sincere appreciation to everyone who has made it possible. And I look forward when we go down, Prime Minister, for the groundbreaking ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mackenzie, for your intervention. Certainly, I believe it was either 2018 or 2019, just ahead of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister personally went to the area and surveyed what was happening. He looked himself at the housing stock, and I recall him remarking that this cannot stand. It has to change. And so today, the both, well, I suppose, short, medium, and long-term process is now being engaged in terms of the vision for transformation that the Prime Minister and the entire Cabinet has for this area, but in particular for housing. Again, this social housing project has really transformed lives, and it's been a commitment of the Prime Minister. He has certainly been very, very meticulous at it, very strategic in terms of ensuring that it remains under the Hope Project, because he has said in the past and continues to say that the people must have hope in the things that government is doing. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness.
Thank you, Madam Director of Ceremonies. Thanks for pointing out that this is an area that I have personally visited, and I did say this cannot stand. We must change this. Let me acknowledge Minister Mackenzie, the Member of Parliament for the area, and the Minister of Local Government, Minister Pernell Charles Jr., the Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, who will go ahead of me to the COP26 in Scotland, and I will be leaving tomorrow. You were not approved. The Climate Change Summit is very important, not just globally, but more specifically to small island developing states like Jamaica. More needs to be said in the local space so that the Jamaican public can understand why it is important for us to go and participate in this event. And so we will make a full statement to Parliament on our return. Minister Charles did make a statement on Wednesday regarding our trip to Scotland to participate in the COP26. I do lead a stream of the climate change process, myself and the French President, Mr. Macron, and that is the climate financing stream. Let me acknowledge our permanent secretaries who are here, Permanent Secretary Sewell, Permanent Secretary Hales, and our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government. Your name always escapes me, Permanent Secretary, Marsha Henry Martin, Permanent Secretary. May I also acknowledge our Chief City Engineer, Xavier, and the most eloquent former town clerk, now CEO, Mr. Robert Hill, members of the media. Oh, forgive me. Let me acknowledge our director, our CTD, our Chief Technical Director, and the team from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Now, you know I have to speak about the COVID situation before I start. I am told that I'm speaking on it too much. I'm saying too much about vaccines and so forth, and people want to hear about other things without making the connection that nothing else can go on until we get over the pandemic. The pandemic has really disrupted, and whilst you may take your eyes off it, I can't, because if there were another wave or spike or outbreak or challenge to the health system, and everybody tumbles down on the government and says, what were you doing? So I have to keep my hands on that one very closely. We have made some changes to the Disaster Risk Management Act, which I announced in Parliament. One of them has not got much attention, but I believe the country should be aware of it, that we have given a directive in the DRMA to permanent secretaries. So Marsha, Audrey, and Alwyn, you have to ensure that you establish the vaccination status of your staff. That is in the Disaster Risk Management Act. For health purposes, we need to know so that we can plan how to keep our offices safe. So that means whatever means you're going to do that by PSs, you should have a roster and you should know who is vaccinated and who is not. We have not said anything else other than that, except that the government is now permitted to keep events like these. No more than 50 persons are allowed, but only vaccinated persons. So that means that the events have to be controlled. We are not allowed to keep open events. They would have to be by invitation on establishing your vaccination status. So I can say that in this room, everyone has been vaccinated fully, except one that has received one dose and is going to get their dose very shortly. The rule really is that everyone must be fully vaccinated to come to these meetings. That one little exception was made. But I'm clarifying the rule, PS, that when we say vaccinated, we mean fully vaccinated.
Actually, I told them to take their cards.
Right, so
they have theirs. See them there.
yeah, so
I told them to walk with their
I want everybody to understand that the government is moving surely and steadily in this direction, making sure that we are in keeping with all our laws and respecting everyone's rights and keeping everyone safe. So, having gone through all of that, and just to clarify the rules some more, when we are having events that are outdoor, certainly we wouldn't be able to control everyone who would come on the periphery to look. But anyone who is in the curtilage of the meeting, meaning the area established and under control, must be vaccinated and established as such. So, we're here today to sign the MOUs for the establishment of a housing development called Victoria Palms in Denham Town. The genesis of this is stemmed from a visit I made to West Kingston on the invitation of the Member of Parliament, the Minister of Local Government, to tour and have a first-hand view of the housing stock in West Kingston. Now, let me just be clear. The situation with the housing stock in West Kingston would be no different from the housing stock in Southwest St. Andrew, in Southern St. Andrew, in West Central St. Andrew. In fact, in Central Kingston, all of that belt would have seen a significant deterioration in their housing stock. All of that belt had communities, still have communities, that were considered to be the residential suburbs of Kingston. As urbanization occurred, which it will over time, cities will expand, people will move, new people will move in, businesses will move in, property usage will change. But more importantly, the long period of no economic growth, in fact, the long period of negative economic growth, political violence, and social deterioration would have contributed to massive urban decay. So you're dealing with just the deterioration of housing stock over time because of lack of reinvestment in property. But that lack of reinvestment is exacerbated when you pile on top of that crime and other social issues. And that has just caused the area to decline. The government can't sit by and allow this situation to continue. So I want you to appreciate that this signing is not the be-all and end-all of the government's intervention. In fact, you could consider this to be more like a test run as to how the government is going to intervene in these urban areas. And the reason why we have the Minister of Housing here is that critical to what we're doing is the development of a policy for urban renewal. So you note that it is not just the Ministry of Housing, it's the Ministry of Housing and the special task of urban renewal. And that means now when we start to talk about urban renewal, it's not just the investment in the property, but urban renewal will also require investment in people, investments in the infrastructure and the amenities, and in security and health. And so it is a comprehensive approach. But to get back to this project specifically, after touring with Minister Mackenzie, the situation was so touching to me that I immediately, even without consultation with the state of the budget, I made a commitment that we will find a way to begin to address the situation. So Minister Mackenzie was assured that Rasta City would be addressed, and that is well on its way. When I visited that place, I was just, I must confess, I was depressed by the situation there, and immediately decided that this has to be dealt with. And then when we visited Board Villa, I have similar situations in my constituency. And it might sound impossible to persons listening, you know, how could 200 persons, 200 families rather, 200 households live on maybe an acre and a half of land, if that large a plot? But they do. And it is the most despairing circumstance. So what we're now going to do is a de-densification of the area. We're going to take out about 20 families, 20 households out of that 200, and we're going to relocate them to a nearby property, which Minister Mackenzie pointed out. That property is about 3/4 of an acre, and we will be building some specially designed homes it is not so that other persons can then go and move in and put down other shacks at Board Villa. The idea is to, at some point when we identify more funding, to do a further process of de-densification, that is to move out another set, house them properly, and then we probably would have enough space on the lands at Board Villa to properly redevelop Board Villa. I've gone into this detail to give the public an insight into the complexities involved in urban redevelopment, particularly with regularizing informal settlement. In my own constituency, I have an area called St. Paul's Lane. And you can find many of these lanes and pens and, all around the country. You have Lime Tree Lane, you have Grant's Pen, you have all kinds of areas. Informal settlements that have sprung up on undeveloped lands, on the verges of gully banks and so forth. And within those informal communities, when you tour them, you meet some of the finest human beings you can expect. Some of the most ambitious, some of the most trying, and they are trapped in circumstances. But these conditions are also the breeding grounds for criminals, deviants, persons whose only intention is to create mayhem. They hide in those communities. They hold the communities captive. And so it is imperative that the government intervenes. And the way in which we intervene is important. One of the challenges we face is that the people who are occupying the land, many of them without formal title, illegally and irregularly, do not want to move. The land is not enough to hold them in a decent way. The density of the land is just too much, but they don't want to move. And many of them have good reason why they don't want to move. This is where their children go to school. It's close to work. They have lived there for many years. And they have developed their own systems of survival in those areas. So a challenge to the process of urban redevelopment, of regularizing these settlements, of improving the living conditions of the people, is to get into their minds that some will have to move off the land that they are on. But probably the biggest resistance, the biggest reason for resistance, is that they feel that if they move from their current circumstance, the government would not ensure that they are going to be going to a better circumstance. And so when we sat down to craft the strategy, we made it absolutely clear that if we're going to require persons to move, it is to a better situation. So if you look at what we're putting together under the HOPE program, the persons who are now living in Board Villa, they are going to get a housing solution which is far better than the unit that they now have at Board Villa. They will be able to get title for the unit. They will have proper infrastructure, sewage, water, electricity, and even a jogging trail and a park. So their circumstance is better. We definitely try not to move them too far from where they were so that their systems of survival that they have developed would not be disrupted too much. That may not always be the case, because we may not always have lands nearby. And in fact, when we started, which we have, looking at all the informal settlements in Kingston, looking at their density and how we could densify them and relocate, we don't have enough lands in Kingston to do that. So we may have to go close, and of course, St. Thomas, St. Catherine, those areas are looking like good areas that we could develop to do some relocations. Now, there's always a problem other than, people not wanting to move because they fear that the circumstances that the government would give them would be less. There is the political issue involved. And sometimes the politics just gets in the way of development. Things that just make sense because it's not politically convenient, it's not done. And what we find when we're doing our surveys is not that people don't want to move, but they have political people telling them not to move because they don't want to lose their votes, or it's because it's a political ploy, or some nonsense they're being told. And, I'm growing increasingly impatient with the political doublespeak on these matters. If the country is going to develop, then we have to set aside this business of trying to maintain political advantage while the people remain in poverty. So, we know the situation in Wees Road. We know the situation in Mona Commons. For the national development, let's agree that these situations cannot continue. Let's find proper alternative housing and agree that the people should move. So we're using these very small test cases as models, and we're studying them as we go along. We'll be studying in terms of interviewing the beneficiaries, hearing their perspectives before and after, and then using these case studies so that other communities looking on can develop a sense of confidence in how the government is going about this kind of urban renewal and regularization of informal urban settlements. So the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, through the HOPE program, which has been doing an excellent job right across the country in building homes for indigent persons, for poor families, for what we call tenement yards, and for communities that need relocation, which is the modality under which the Victoria Palms development is being undertaken. That program is funding this project and will be working with the Ministry of Local Government to see this project executed. Minister Mackenzie, through his ministry as well, will be putting in a few houses to complement the numbers that we are doing. The project is now out to tender, so we won't say too much about what it will cost and other details. We don't want to compromise the tender process. But it is important that the public knows that the government is moving ahead with its commitment towards the 70,000 new housing solutions, which are not just high-end and expensive houses, or not just houses for persons who can afford mortgages, but in that round number of 70,000 new housing solutions, there is a house in there for you if you are someone who is indigent, you are unemployed. We believe that good housing, good shelter is a right, and we are going to do everything in our powers to ensure that you can benefit from one of these shelter solutions. So the people of Board Villa, they are going to be a test case. They won't be the first, but they are a test case. Well, P.S., they are the first in this modality. They are the first in the relocation, the strategy for de-densification. They are the first. My own constituency, we're trying to do that for St. Paul's Lane. That might be a little bit more complicated, Minister, because whereas you have proximity to sewage and other amenities, in St. Paul's Lane, we don't, so we have to put those things in. But we have started in a community called Bell Rock. So we have started this process. We're going to study them carefully. We're going to use them as learning cases. And the learning that we get from that, we will integrate it into a scaled-up project, which we hope to start next year when we have completed the design competition. The design competition, you'll recall, is we have made a call to our local architects, engineers, and planners to come up with a cost-effective, ergonomic, and livable, sustainable housing solution. And there are several of them which they are now reviewing, and we will announce the winning submission soon. Once we have those, then we can move full force into building them into these relocation, redevelopment, regularization strategies for urban renewal. So, ladies and gentlemen, with those few words, I'm very pleased to see that this is coming to fruition and that the people who live in these circumstances should know that we care about them. We are always concerned about the situation, even though we are stretched and in many ways distracted by the COVID pandemic. We are still ensuring that the plans that we have laid for your development, for your benefit, for the improvement in your welfare and well-being, that those plans are being properly administered and being brought into fruition. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Those weren't few words, those were many words of ensuring that the Jamaican public understands the strategy behind what they may consider simple things, you know. It's not just putting together a community, but ensuring that there is a sustainable plan for your security, for your health and recreation. And the Prime Minister gave you an insight into certainly the strategy that the government is employing to deal with that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now at the stage where we have the signing of the MOU, and I can tell you that all those at the head table who are fully vaccinated and social distancing and fully masked will participate in the signing ceremony. May I ask then that we just have the documents on the table so that we can do the relevant signing, and of course the assistants will be the ones transferring the documents as opposed to having many persons interacting and touching the documents. May I, ladies and gentlemen, invoke a little bit of courtesy and someone, not just someone, several persons on social media asked me to say thank you to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development for allowing vaccinated fans to be able to attend the football match in November, Jamaica, USA at the National Stadium. So there are several persons on social media who says, I need to say that publicly, so I have duly acquiesced to that for that to happen. And so, ladies and gentlemen, now we'll have the signing and show you directly how all members of the head table are signing the document so that we are able to now fully see the partnership that will have Victoria Palms become a reality. Yes, this side should come over here? No, it's over. Fantastic. There's a strategy in signing your signature to some of these documents, you know. Yes. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Indeed, wonderful. And in the old days, they say, well, you've placed your John Hancock on the document, so that's your signature, indeed. And so may I then ask the Prime Minister, the Minister of Local Government, to just come forward to the ceremonial exchange of the document, along with the Town Clerk, who certainly will ensure that all the relevant...
Everybody can hold.
I don't think everyone can hold, given the COVID protocols we have here. So let's just do the PM and Minister Mackenzie along with, and then and Mr. Hill? Yes. Yes. Noting that there are others here at the head table who have signed the document. And so officially, the MOU that will see the construction of Victoria Palms in Western Kingston become a reality. Of course, with us here with the Prime Minister and Minister Mackenzie, we have Minister Charles, of course the CEO of the KSAMC, Mr. Hill, participated in that exchange. We also have the permanent secretaries, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, Dr. Ian Hales, Mrs. Marsha Henry Martin, and of course the city engineer as well with us. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us this morning. A very brief ceremony, but very impactful in terms of what will happen to transform the lives of those involved in the construction and certainly those who will live in the areas in the coming months and years ahead. Thank you so much, and we do wish you a happy day and a very productive Friday and a good weekend. Take good care.